Chapter 59. What hellfire is, and what the gnashing of teeth is. What eternal fire is, and the gnashing of teeth, which are mentioned in the word in reference to those who are in hell, scarcely as yet has been known to anyone, because they have thought materially about the things that are in the word, not knowing its spiritual sense. So fire has been understood by some to mean material fire, by others to mean torment in general, by others remorse of conscience, and others have held that it is mentioned merely to excite terror in the wicked. Likewise, some have supposed the gnashing of teeth to mean actual gnashing, and some only a horror, such as is excited when such a grinding of teeth is heard. But anyone who is acquainted with the spiritual meaning of the word may know what eternal fire is and what the gnashing of teeth is. For every expression and every meaning of the expressions in the word contains a spiritual meaning, since the word in its bosom is spiritual. And what is spiritual can be set before man only in a natural way of expression, because man is in the natural world and thinks from the things there. Therefore, it will now be told in the following passages what is meant by eternal fire and the gnashing of teeth, into which the spirits of evil men enter after death, or which their spirits then in the spiritual world endure. There are two sources of heat, one from the Son of Heaven, which is the Lord, and the other from the Son of the world. The heat that is from the Son of Heaven, that is the Lord, is spiritual heat, and this in its essence is love. But the heat from the Son of the world is natural heat, and this in its essence is not love, but serves spiritual heat or love as a receptacle. It can be established that love in its essence is heat, by reason of the warming of the mind and of the body thereby, as a result of love in accord with its degree and quality. And this man experiences in the winter as well as in the summer. The warming of the blood is from the same source. That the natural heat that comes into existence from the Son of the world serves spiritual heat as a receptacle is evident from the heat of the body, which is excited by the heat of its spirit, and is a kind of substitute for that heat in the body. It is especially evident from the spring and summer heat in animals of every kind, which then annually renew their loves. It is not the natural heat that does this, but it disposes their bodies to receive the heat that flows into them from the spiritual world. For the spiritual world flows into the natural as cause into effect. Whoever believes that natural heat produces these loves is much deceived, for there is an influx from the spiritual world into the natural world, and not from the natural world into the spiritual. And as all love belongs to the life itself, it is spiritual. Again, he who believes that anything comes into existence in the natural world without influx from the spiritual world is deceived. For what is natural comes into and remains in existence only from what is spiritual. Furthermore, the subjects of the vegetable kingdom derive their germinations from influx out of the spiritual world. The natural heat of springtime and summer merely disposes the seeds into their natural forms by expanding and opening them so that influx from the spiritual world can there act as a cause. These things have been brought forward that it may be known that there are two kinds of heat, namely spiritual heat and natural heat. And that spiritual heat is from the Son of Heaven, and natural heat from the Son of the world. And that influx and consequent cooperation produces the effects that appear before the eyes in the world. Spiritual heat with man is the heat of his life, because, as was said above, it is, in its essence, love. This heat is what is meant in the word by fire. Love to the Lord and love towards the neighbour by heavenly fire, and love of self and love of the world by infernal fire. Infernal fire or love comes into existence from the same source as heavenly fire or love, namely the Son of Heaven or the Lord. But it is made infernal by those who receive it. For all influx from the spiritual world is varied in accordance with reception, that is, in accordance with the forms into which it flows, just as it is with the heat and light from the sun of the world. The heat from that sun flowing into shrubberies and beds of flowers produces vegetation and draws forth grateful and sweet odours. But the same heat flowing into excrementitious and decaying substances produces putrefacients and draws forth rank and disgusting stenches. In like manner, the light from the same sun produces in one subject beautiful and pleasing colours, in another unbeautiful and disagreeable colours. The same is true of the heat and light from the Son of Heaven, which is love. When the heat or love from that sun flows into goods, as it does with men and good spirits and angels, it makes their goods fruitful. But with the evil it produces a contrary effect, for their evils either suffocate it or pervert it. In like manner, when the light of heaven flows into the truths of good, it imparts intelligence and wisdom. But when it flows into the falsities of evil, it is there turned into insanities and fantasies of various kinds. Thus, in every instance, the result is in accordance with reception. As infernal fire is the love of self and of the world, it is also every lust of these loves, since lust is love in its continuity. For what a man loves, he continually lusts after. Infernal fire is also delight, since what a man loves and lusts after, he perceives, when he obtains it, to be delightful. The man's delight of heart is from no other source. Infernal fire, therefore, is the lust and delight that springs from these two loves as their origins. The evils flowing from these loves are contempt of others, enmity, and hostility against those who do not favour them, envy, hatred, and revenge, and from these fierceness and cruelty. And in respect of the divine, they are denial and consequent contempt, derision, and detraction of the holy things that are of the Church. And after death, when man becomes a spirit, these evils are changed into anger and hatred against these holy things. And as these evils breathe forth continually the destruction and murder of those whom they account as enemies, and against whom they burn with hatred and revenge, so it is the delight of their life to will to destroy and kill, and so far as they are unable to do this, to will to do mischief, to injure, and to exercise cruelty. These are the things meant by fire in the Word, where the evil and the hells are treated of. Some passages from which I would here quote as confirmation. Every one is a hypocrite and an evildoer, and every mouth speaketh folly. For wickedness burneth as the fire, it devoureth the briars and thorns, and kindleth in the thickets of the forests, and they roll upward in the rising of smoke. And the people is become like food for fire. No man spareth his brother. I will show wonders in the heavens, and in the earth blood and fire, and pillars of smoke. The sun shall be turned into darkness. The land shall become burning pitch. It shall not be quenched night nor day. The smoke thereof shall go up forever. Behold, the day cometh, burning as a furnace, and all the proud and every worker of wickedness shall be stubble, and the day that cometh shall set them on fire. Babylon is become a habitation of demons. They cried out as they saw the smoke of her burning. Her smoke goeth up unto the ages of the ages. He opened the pit of the abyss, and there went up a smoke out of the pit as the smoke of a great furnace. And the sun was darkened, and the air by the smoke of the pit. Out of the mouth of the horses went forth fire and smoke and brimstone. By these was the third part of men killed, by the fire and by the smoke and by the brimstone. If anyone adores the beast, he shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God, mixed with pure wine in the cup of his anger, and shall be tormented with fire and brimstone. The fourth angel poured out his bowl upon the sun, and it was given unto it to scorch men with fire. Therefore men were scorched with great heat. They were cast into a lake burning with fire and brimstone. Every tree that bringeth not forth good fruit shall be hewn down and cast into the fire. The Son of Man shall send his angels, and they shall gather out of his kingdom all things that cause stumbling, and them that do iniquity, and shall cast them into a furnace of fire. The king shall say to them that are on the left hand, Depart from me, ye cursed, into eternal fire, prepared for the devil and his angels. They shall be sent into everlasting fire, into the hell of fire, where their worm shall not die, and the fire shall not be quenched. The rich man in hell said to Abraham that he was tormented in fire. In these, and in many other passages, fire means the lust pertaining to love of self and love of the world, and the smoke therefrom means falsity from evil. Because the lust of doing the evils that are from the love of self and of the world is meant by infernal fire, and because such is the lust of all in the hells, as shown in the foregoing section, therefore also, when the hells are opened, there is an appearance of fire with smoke, such as is seen in conflagrations, a dense fire from the hells where the love of self reigns, and a flaming fire from the hell where the love of the world reigns. When, however, the hells are closed, this fiery appearance is not seen, but in its place there is a kind of obscurity like the condensation from smoke. Yet the fire still rages within, as can be seen by the heat exhaling therefrom, which is like the heat from the burnt ruins after a fire, and in some places like the heat from a heated furnace, in others like the heat from a hot bath. When this heat inflows with man, it excites lust in him, and with evil men, hatred and revenge, and with the sick, insanities. They who are in the above-mentioned loves have such a fire or such a heat, since as to their spirit they are attached to those hells, even while living in the body. But it ought to be known that those who are in the hells are not in fire. The fire is an appearance. Those there are conscious of no burning, but only of a warmth, like that which they had felt when in the world. This appearance of fire is from correspondence, for love corresponds to fire, and all the things seen in the spiritual world are seen in accordance with correspondences. It must be noted that this infernal fire or heat is changed into intense cold when heat from heaven inflows, and then those who are in it shiver like those seized with a chilling fever, and are also inwardly distressed, and for the reason that they are in direct opposition to the divine. And the heat of heaven, which is divine love, extinguishes the heat of hell, which is the love of self, and with it the fire of their life. And this is the cause of such cold and consequent shivering and distress. This is accompanied by thick darkness, and by infatuation therefrom, and blindness. But this rarely happens, and only when outbreaks that have increased beyond measure need to be repressed. Because infernal fire means every lust for doing evil that flows forth from the love of self, this fire means also such torment as exists in the hells. For the lust from that evil is a lust for injuring others who do not honour, venerate and worship oneself. And in proportion to the anger thereby excited, and the hatred and revenge from that anger, is there a lust for venting one's rage upon them. When such lust is active in everyone in a society where no external bonds restrain, such as the fear of the law and of the loss of reputation, honour, gain and life, everyone from the impulse of his own evil rushes upon another, and so far as he prevails, subjugates the rest and subjects them to his dominion, and vents his rage with delight upon those who do not submit themselves. This delight is so intimately united with the delight of bearing rule that they exist in the same measure, since the delight of doing harm is contained in all enmity, envy, hatred and revenge, which, as said above, are the evils of that love. All the hells are such societies, and in consequence everyone there in his heart hates the other, and from hatred bursts forth into cruelty so far as he has power. These cruelties and their torments are also meant by infernal fire, for they are the effects of lusts. It has been shown above that an evil spirit casts himself into hell of his own accord. It will now be told in a few words how this comes about, when yet there are in hell such torments. From every hell there exhales a sphere of the lusts of those who are in it. Whenever this sphere is perceived by one who is in a like lust, he is affected at heart and filled with delight, for lust and its delight make one, since whatever one lusts after is delightful to him. Because of this, a spirit turns himself hellwards, and from delight of heart lusts to go thither, since he does not yet know that such torments exist there, although he who knows it still lusts to go there. For no one in the spiritual world can resist his lust, because his lust belongs to his love, and his love belongs to his will, and his will belongs to his nature, and everyone there acts from his nature. When, therefore, a spirit of his own accord and from his freedom drifts towards his hell and enters it, he is received at first in a friendly manner, which makes him believe that he has come among friends. But this continues for a few hours only. In the meanwhile, he is explored in respect of his astuteness and consequent ability. And when this has been done, they begin to infest him, and this by various methods, and with gradually greater severity and vehemence. This is accomplished by introducing him more interiorly and deeply into hell. For the more interior and deeper the hell, the more malignant are the spirits. After these infestations, they begin to treat him cruelly by punishments, and this goes on until he is reduced to the condition of a slave. But rebellious movements are continually springing up there, since everyone wishes to be greatest and burns with hatred against the others. And in consequence, new uprisings occur, and thus one scene is changed into another, and those who are made slaves are delivered that they may assist some new devil to subjugate others. And again, those who refuse to submit and render implicit obedience are tormented in various ways, and so on continually. Such torments are the torments of hell, which are called hellfire. Gnashing of teeth, however, is the continual dispute and combat of falsities with each other, consequently of those who are in falsities, joined with contempt of others, with enmity, mockery, ridicule, blaspheming. And these evils burst forth into lacerations of various kinds, since everyone fights for his own falsity and calls it truth. These disputes and combats are heard outside these hells like the gnashing of teeth, and are also turned into gnashings of teeth when truths from heaven inflow hither. In these hells are all who have acknowledged nature and have denied the divine. In the deeper of these hells are those who have confirmed themselves in such denials. Because such are unable to receive anything of light from heaven, and are thus unable to see anything inwardly in themselves, they are for the most part corporeal, sensual spirits, who believe nothing except what they see with their eyes and touch with their hands. Therefore, all the fallacies of the senses are true to them, and it is from these that they dispute. This is why their contentions are heard as gnashings of teeth, for in the spiritual world all falsities give a grating sound, and the teeth correspond to the outermost things in nature, and to the outermost things with man, which are corporeal, sensual.